Well, now, I'd like to talk about yoga bandhas. This will just be a brief introduction. And then in future videos, in subsequent videos, I'll share more details. I'll go into more depth about each one. What does bandha mean? Bandha means bondage, to bind, to harness. There are other words associated with bandha. Perhaps you've heard the word lock. In a spiritual sense, the word bandha means bondage to our suffering, or bound to ignorance, which causes our suffering. Our bondage is the source of our suffering, and in some paradigms, our bondage is the source of our very life through the samsara, that wheel of that cycle of birth and death, and rebirth and redeath. But for our purposes, we're going to focus on the physical bandhas. We're going to look at the asanas, the yoga posture bandhas. Bandhas are mudras, which are energetic seals. Mudras are energetic seals, and the bandhas are a subset of mudras. So these are neuromuscular engagements. Right? They're used in asana, pranayama practices, yoga meditation practices. In asana practice, they're used to support and stabilize the body, regions of the body. As well, they contain and redirect energy, contain and redirect the mechanical work of the yoga posture. And as well, they contain and redirect that subtle energy, the prana, which is in the nervous system aspect of things. From my own experience, engaging bandhas in the yoga asana practice, the yoga posture series has really stirred up that subtle energy and expresses itself in the form of nervous tissue energy. More about that in future videos. There are three major bandha regions. Okay, there's the pelvic region, known as Mula Bandha. There's the abdominal region, known as Uddiyana Bandha. And then there's the throat region, known as the Jalandhara Bandha. For our purposes, we're going to mainly focus on the pelvic and abdominal regions for yoga posture series engagements. There are many times where you'll have the throat lock position, okay, but truly the throat lock in its fullest use, in its fullest engagement, is for the pranayama, the kumbhaka stage, the breath retention of a pranayama practice. So we're going to focus mainly on the pelvic lock, the pelvic region here of the Mula Bandha, and the abdominal region of the Uddiyana Bandha. There are also some accessory engagements which come into play. They're very important to support, and they're like extensions of the bandhas. As you'll see, we have the foot lock, or the pada bandha, which engages the feet, raises the arches, and connects nicely with the leg inseam, all the way up the leg and the thigh, the inner thigh, inner leg, right into the foot region. It's like a squeezing of the inner thighs, but it's a little more subtle than that. And if you can see here, the leg inseam through the thigh will connect nicely with the pelvic region and the pelvic lock, the Mula Bandha, which itself is nicely connected with the Uddiyana Bandha, the abdominal region, through fibers through fascias, and so they come into play and interconnect nicely with each other. And once you learn to engage all of them, it really enhances and lifts up the whole practice. So we're going to be using these. We'll talk about these in more detail relating to our asana practice, our yoga posture practice. So whether you're new to the bandhas or whether you have some familiarity with them, I hope you've found some value in this. This brings us to the end of the presentation, and I'll be back soon.